And when you are in part of that planning process, like what is it that, again, what you mentioned that there are maybe points or things that the commission is considering, like help us think, what are some of the things that they will be considering and looking for citizen input on?
So I would go back to Minnesota has laws on the books that say we're going to cut greenhouse gas emissions. And we need to apply that to this planning process. And the PUC tends to be a little, less than stringent in enforcing that, I would say.
That's the politest way I've heard someone talk about the PUC in like a week and a half.
They need to do that more clearly. There's this sort of bifurcation. So the PUC considers themselves to be economic regulators, which is sort of the traditional view of PUCs, that they decide on what's the lowest cost option, and that's the one that they pick. And then they say, oh, and Minnesota has these policies too, and we're gonna look at those too, but they're sort of secondary. They're not like as important as what's the least cost option. And I think that's wrong, because when we pass laws in Minnesota that say we want you to cut greenhouse gas emissions 30% by 2025 and 80% by 2050, and that's based on science, we mean that. And we mean that that's part of what should be incorporated into the decision making in a very explicit way. So I would encourage people to push really hard for that.
And I would just add to that, I think,
that
deserves a round of applause. I think we haven't really realized yet that the world has changed. You know, when the report came out, the World Report talking about how we have to change because of if we move past 1.5 Celsius, like we are at risk, and our best efforts, our best, most ambitious efforts will not stop that. And that should scare all of us. We should understand that the status quo isn't good enough, and not only that, we will not survive the status quo. So